Here we're going to talk about filling out a Form 941. So we're going to go to our IRS website. We'll go to Forms and Pubs, Current Forms. We'll find our 941 form and bring it up. And with the 941 form, we are going to actually type onto this screen, and then you could print it out. I'm going to take a look in your book in Chapter 3. And if you take a look at 3-11A and 3-12A, it talks about the information that they've already gathered to do this form. Alright, so the first thing is the employer ID number, and here they just used a made up number, so I put in the 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6, 5, 0, 9. And I tabbed between each of those. Okay, the name is Carlos Cruz. The trade name of the company is the Cruz Company. I'm going to leave the address blank, but you would fill that in. Now, in this particular problem, this is for the quarter ending July, August, and September. And so that is the third quarter, and so I would click my X there. Okay, number of employees who received tips or other compensation for the pay period. So we're in the third quarter, so we have to look on September 12th. And we look in there on that day, how many employees did we have that day? So if one was terminated on September 11th, we do not count that person. Even though they might have gotten a paycheck on September 13th, it doesn't matter. They were no longer an employee on September 12th. Or if we hired a new person on September 11th, even though they haven't gotten their first paycheck yet, they were still an employee on September 12th. Okay? Now, here we had 14 employees. Okay? Wages, tips, and other compensation. Well, we were told that the wages paid for the third quarter was $79 and $750, okay, and 17 cents. Now we need the federal income tax that was withheld from those wages, and we were told that that was $9,570. Now when we go down, we go down to question 4. It says, if no wages, tips, or other compensation are subject to Social Security or Medicare tax, then you could just check this and go on down to question 6. However, we do have stuff that's subject to Social Security and Medicare, and most companies do, and so we will leave that blank and go on to 5. 5A, B, C, D, and E, and F is all related to Social Security and Medicare. Column 1 says how much was the total taxes that or the total taxable wages that were subject to Social Security. And then column 2 is how much is the total tax that belongs to those taxable wages. Now that includes, notice that 5A, taxable Social Security wages. And so here, all of the wages, not even one person went over the maximum in this particular cruise company, so all of the wages were subject to Social Security. So 79,750 and 17 cents. And we're multiplying that by 0.124. Why is it 0.124? Because this is including the employee and the employer portion. And so the employee portion is 0.062 and the employer portion is 0.062. So together that's 0.124. So I multiply this times 0.124, and that tells me how much taxes that we should have deposited that relates to Social Security. And so that is 9,889 and 2 cents. Now, this is the taxable Social Security tips. So we will not need this for our project, but in real life, if your place of business gave out tips, that Social Security was collected on those tips, then how much tips the Social Security was collected on would be put on column 5B, column 1 of 5B. You multiply that times the 0.124. 5C is taxable Medicare wages. Now, Medicare does not have a maximum, and so all of the wages are taxable for Medicare. Okay? So, again, we have 79750. Oops. We have to tab over, put the 17 cents. Okay? And notice that we're multiplying that by 0.029, which is 0.0145 times both the employee and the employer. So we get 23.12 and 75 cents. Okay? This is the wages and tips subject to additional Medicare tax withholding. And we talked about if someone makes over $250,000 in wages, or they're single and they make over $200,000, then they have to take extra Medicare out. So we don't have any of those, and so we'll leave that blank. It says add column 2 from 5A, B, C, and 5D. And so we get 12,201 and 77 cents. 5S is a Section 3121 notice and demand, tax due on unreported tips, and so we should not have any of that. Of course, even if we have somewhere that has tips, we will have collected them, we will have our people report the tips, we will collect the proper tax, and we would not need this line here for ourselves. Line 6, total taxes before adjustments. Add lines 3, 5E, and 5F. And so line 3 is 9570. Put the 00 in there. 5E is 12,201.77, and 5F, we don't have anything in there, and so we add those three together, and we get 21,771 and 77 cents. Okay. So this is saying this is the total that we should have deposited for our 941 deposits. Now sometimes because of rounding, we might have deposited something a little bit more or less. And so in this case, We were told that the total deposits was $20,176.83, and oh, I have the wrong version of this is the 2013 version of the payroll tax book. Okay, and so I'm going to say that that we sent in, that we had deposits of $21,771.83. Okay, so we sent in 6 cents too much. Okay, and so you're going to go to this line 7 where it says current quarter's adjustment for fractions of cents and put in the 06 there. We will not be, for our class, using any of these other ones. Okay, so we're going to go down to line 10, and that's basically says that we're adding line 6 and 7. So we get 21,771 and 83. Okay, on line 10. Line 11, total deposits for this quarter. So we deposited 21,771 and 83 cents. Okay, and now if we did not deposit enough, then we would put how much extra we owe in line 12, balance due. If we deposited too much, we would put that overpayment in line 13, and then we would check whether we want to just apply this to the next return, or do we want the IRS to send us a refund check. Typically, we're going to apply it to the next return because very shortly we're going to have the next quarterly deposit, and we can just subtract it from that quarterly deposit, and that's the quickest way to use that money instead of waiting for who knows how long for some check to come in the mail. Okay, this is the second page. You're going to get your name and the employer ID number, which I'm not going to put here for right now, but that would go in there. Now you have to, for part 2, tell us about your deposit schedule. So you have to check one of these. Either line 10 in this return is less than $2,500. So you have less than $2,500 worth of 941 taxes that are due within an entire quarter. Or the second one, you were a monthly scheduled depositor for the entire quarter. Or the third one, you were a semi-weekly scheduled deposit for any part of the quarter. And then it says complete Schedule B. So we would have to pull up a Schedule B and fill it out. Now in case of this problem, we are a monthly, so we would click on that. Then we have to put down our tax liability for each of those 3 months. So this is the third quarter, so we're talking about July is the first month, August is the second month, September is the third month. So how much 941 taxes did we owe for July? That's going to go in month 1. Not how much 941 taxes did we pay, but how much did we owe? Okay? And so here in problem 12, they tell us how much that is. Once again, I have a 2013 version, and that version has less because of the tax situation that they had on their forms. Okay, so I'm going to add 1,000 to the July one. So that would be 7666 point. Oops, sorry. Got a tab. And 75 cents. Month 2, I'm going to add $595. 7085 and 55 cents. And month 3, I'm going to use the same number that they have there. Oops. Have 53 cents. Now, I need to add those 3 together. $7,666.75 plus 705.55 plus 7019.53 is 21771.83. All right. Notice how next to this it says total must equal line 10. Now, if you go back, line 10 was the total that we were supposed to pay. Line 11 was the total amount that we did pay. In this case, happens to be the same number because we made sure that we paid in the correct amount. Well, we actually paid in 6 cents. 6 cents difference. Okay? But in this case, that's okay. So anything under $1, we're just going to put in that line 7 so that our line 10 will equal the pennies, at least, on line 11. And then if we have a significant difference over $1, then we need to either pay that difference or we will get it in a refund. The first thing we would do is go check and see what was our problem that we deposited some different amount than what we were supposed to. But this on the back is supposed to equal how much we owed, not how much we actually paid. So if we didn't make any deposits because we were broke or whatever, it would still equal how much we should have paid for each of those 3 months. And this number needs to equal line 10. Part 3, tell us about your business. Has your business closed or you stopped paying wages? Then you would click here and enter the final date you paid wages. If you're a seasonal employer and you sell firecrackers, you're only open in the summer near July 4th, well, then you would click there and they won't send you a bunch of 941 forms that you don't really need. Part 4, may we speak to your third-party designee. This is if you had somebody that you paid to fill out this form. Do you want to allow an employee, a paid tax preparer, etc., to discuss this return with the IRS? You would put their information. You would select a 5-digit PIN number. The IRS would ask you that PIN number, and if you know it, then they would proceed to have permission to talk to you about this return. Sign here. You must complete both pages of Form 941 and sign it. As far as they're concerned, it is not valid unless it's signed. So if it's unsigned, you didn't send it. You're going to get penalized for being late in sending it until you send one that's signed. So it must be signed. Also, realize, under penalties of perjury, I declare that I've examined this return, including accompanying schedules and statements. To the best of my knowledge, and believe it is true, correct, and complete declaration of preparer other than taxpayers based on all information of which preparer has any knowledge. Okay? Whoever signs this return can go to jail. So if you don't want that to be you, then because you're just a bookkeeper, then you better make sure this should be signed by the owner of the company or whatever. Okay, and then that person's name should be printed here, and their title, a date, and phone number. Okay, if there's a paid preparer, like you take this to some kind of tax service, then that preparer's name goes there. Does not mean you as a paid employee. If you are an employee of the company and you filled out the return, you're just handing it to your boss to actually go over it and sign it. That's perfectly fine. You do not fill out the paid preparer. They mean an independent, somebody who's not an employee of the company. If you are part of you have your own payroll tax service or something, and you're doing this for a client, then you would have to fill out this paid preparer section.